thing. So we're going to talk about what's going on in Kenya. So in Kenya, I forgot the name of the activist. What's the name of the activist who was killed? A blogger. But anyway, an activist was killed heading up to their demonstrations against student demonstrations.
Albert Ojwang.
Yeah, yeah, he was killed, detained. They said that he died by beating himself in jail. Big lie. Then later on, they said he died by wounds from resisting police. But anyway, that's not the point of our show. The point is that leading up to protests for the 1 year anniversary of student protests, where 60 students were killed, this guy was killed, and it sheds a light on the police brutality in Kenya. I've always known that Kenyan policemen, back in the day, you would hear that sometimes they'll stop you over in the middle of the road, and they become the policeman, the judge, and the executioner. They'll kill you. And they do it with impunity in Kenya. Their police are known as some of the most thuggish people in the world. These guys are very brutal compared to other countries. They even make white American policemen look like they're saints. The Kenyan police, they were built during the colonial era to be as a support system for the rich and the colonials. And it seems like as soon as Kenya took over independence, the police are basically the hound dogs for the ruling class, the politicians. Now, they claim that they've broken it into three. What are the three categories? Do you remember the name of the three categories they've broken into to make sure that there's a balance in the police? I think there's the National Police Commission, then there's the Internal Affairs, and then there's the one for the civilians. And they're supposed to each work independently so that there's no corruption. But we all know that Ruto has everybody on his payroll. All of this is just for show. It doesn't matter. And then some people say they need to change the police laws, the penal code. It doesn't matter because even if you change the penal code and you make it so that you have different branches of the police for accountability, it's up to the human beings to execute it, and they won't execute it. The president has enough power and money and reach to make sure that all of those branches don't run. Same thing as in the U.S. The Supreme Court is supposed to be independent, but we know that the Clarence Thomas got $500,000 as a gift, and they don't call it bribery. So he passes rules based on money. So we go back to money. Money determines the policing system in Kenya. And the police exist in Kenya to support Ruto and his party and the ruling class. Ruto's still the president, right? Last time I checked,
sure.
right? Was he
Absolutely,
still?
he is.
Yeah. And I don't follow Kenya. I don't want to say something and somebody tomorrow tells me. And it's surprising that he's still around because the guy is draconian. This is the same guy who sent Kenyan police to go and fight black people in Haiti. Remember?
Yeah. I remember.
He sent Kenyan police to go and fight black people in Haiti for America. So the Kenyan police are barbarians. Huh? They're barbarians. What were you saying, Alex? Yeah.
No, I'm saying they went and fought for America. Wow.
Oh, yeah, they went and fought for America. They're going to fight other black people, and they were getting killed. And the U.S. gave them allowance money every day. So let me say it on national TV, or not national TV. Let me say it on YouTube for the world to hear. Kenyan police is a disgrace. Kenyan government is a disgrace. The biggest Uncle Toms on earth. To go to Haiti, which fought off the French, and to send them to go and fight for America, because I think Biden promised Ruto $500,000. That's like Judas, who got a gold coin to kill Christ. Man, these guys are a freaking disgrace. What are your thoughts, Alex? Yeah. But yeah, going back to what I was saying. So the thing is that before I go to you, Alex, the police are brutal, and they basically are the personal bodyguards of the politicians. And no amount of changing laws or anything is going to change anything. Kenya needs a revolution. That's all I have to say. What do you think? And I hope people don't think when I say Kenya needs a revolution, it means just go and kill people anyhow. It means protest, shut down the government, go on strike until the government is held accountable. What are your thoughts, Alex?
You know, the whole Kenyan thing is just, it is a disgrace because they are not for the people at all. It's like a pattern repeating itself, because Kenya has had a problem with this extrajudicial killings, torture, and abuse by the police, especially during like protests. And what I feel is different this time though is that there's more like the Gen Z, there's more like the youth that I feel like might be able to like provide that revolution if they are really willing to like die for it, I think. And also, I don't know, I feel like I'm just a bit conflicted because I do want to believe that the youth can actually change the situation, But then when you think about how there's nepotism in the police forces and whatnot, is it even going to be possible? You know?
Well, I
And
don't know,
also
but
the
go ahead. Go ahead.
okay. No,
Go
I
ahead.
wanted to talk about the murder charges against the police in Ojwang's case. They are a start, but they're only meaningful if they lead to convictions and a broader reform. And when I was reading that article, I saw that this is it really going to be justice? You know, everything just feels like a PR stunt to cool the public anger. And it's just really frustrating because it's like, Kenya, what is really happening? You know, like,
Yeah.
unless if the independent oversight authority and courts are given real teeth, we keep seeing this cycle. Like it's just a
Yeah.
whole cycle that's gonna keep happening and happening. But there may be hope because of the youth, but I'm just not sure if they
Yeah.
will
Well,
have resilience to actually provide that revolution.
you can't get oversight. Even if they arrest somebody, it'll just be for show. The problem is that Ruto is running that country as a dictator and his ruling class. And these Gen Z, the problem with these Gen Z or whoever they are, they will come and say, they will say, America, come and help us. Why can't Kenya be like America? America's a lawful country. So the point is that they're not Pan-Africanists and they're not socialists. They just want change, but they want it within the idea of liberal democracy. Oh, let us vote and let us choose somebody else. No, it doesn't work that way because whoever you vote in, the US or Russia or China will control your leader. They need
Yeah.
so you can't do a revolution until you know what your objective is. What is the Gen Z's objective? What do they want? They're going to say they want justice. No, justice is not the first thing. I always say money is the most important thing. The first change that Kenya needs in order for that with the revolution, the first change they need is the country needs to become socialistic. Same thing I say about South Africa, same thing with Nigeria. It needs to be a socialist people's republic in which the resources are controlled by the people together and the people work together to build the economy, the way China works together. So their movement should be, we all need to work together and we need to do away with liberal democracy, with, oh, just go vote for this person. No, it goes beyond voting. You need to have traditional leaders and people, you need to have a people's union. Then you have the traditional leaders, the African leaders. Then you have whoever wins the elections. But everybody has to follow a constitution which says such and such amount of money is spent on schools, everything. And the people can't say, oh, let's leave the power of oversight to the government. The people themselves need to have vigilante groups or groups that ensure that the law is being, what I mean by vigilante, not killing, but we need to make sure that they have people that stand for their interests rather working with the government. So if you have a labor union person and he's working with the government, it doesn't help. So you need but it seemed like to have that type of revolution, they had it in Russia or in China, you have to kill off the ruling class. That's why China and Russia
also die for what you believe in. They should also be ready to die for what you believe in, which is something that we lack in this generation. We're not willing to die for what we think is right.
No, what they want to do is to have a poster and say, look at me, I'm on Instagram at the riots against Ruto. No, they have to seize power. I hate to say, I know that sounds, look at why do you think this guy is the most famous African in the world now? Traore. Because he used power. He used power. You have to see.
Yeah, and that one is not afraid of dying. How many times have they tried to kill him? Yeah.
And here's the thing, when you seize power also, you have to know what you're going to do with that power. What's his name? Traore is using the money to build hospitals, using the gold and everything to refund and to make sure everybody has a standard of living. Gaddafi did it too. In Libya, when you got married, the government would give you $20,000 when you got married, no matter who you are. They would give you that money. The government subsidized the price of oil in Libya. So what you need then, once again, even a country like Kenya is going to need a revolution, but they're really going to need to have somebody in the military who cares about the country to move it. And then the Gen Zs will back that person because it's been proven now in Africa that unless the military is on board with the well-being of the people, or the police is on board, I would say the military, then a revolution can't come. What do you think, Afolabi?
I agree with you. And a case in question is what is happening in Cameroon as we speak. There's a lot of chaos there. I hear the military has is like the military has overtaken the government. So, and if you look at what is happening in Kenya as well, there's a lot of impunity and political influence. The police act with impunity. They are the watchdogs of the politicians. So it is in Nigeria as well. They send the police after their political opponents. A case in Nigeria is when you have your political opponents, you send the like the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in Nigeria, the EFCC. What the government of the day does is to send them after their political opponents. And that's not really what policing is all about. So the police themselves has become very powerful. The police leadership remains under the control of the ruling regime, and making independent operations and genuine accountability is almost impossible. And then there's this feeling that the culture of violence and public endorsement, a toxic policing culture persists, partly because citizens and politicians believe that police violence is an effective way to handle crime. I don't know where that thinking comes from, but they feel that police violence is an effective way to handle crime. So that is part of the problem as well. But really, the main problem is that the police has become a tool for the political class, and the regime are using them to impugn people, basically.
Yeah, it's terrible. So I think the main thing is, and it's interesting that Kenya's military is not really the focus. It's their police. But it seems like in general, Kenya in general is a mentally colonialized country. They think that they're like the British. So it seems like there's really no sentiment to change it, except for the Generation Z, and they're only fighting back because of economics. It's because they are suffering and they're feeling the effects of the economy. But it doesn't seem like they realize that the big problem is the pull that the U.S. has over the country. So there's a lot of problems in Africa. Each country, like South Africa, has a pretty good anti-colonial movement, but there's corruption in ANC. But ANC is not dictatorial like Ruto. Kenya is dictatorial. The Kenyans in general have trust in white liberal democracy, and they don't see that we need a Pan-African movement. They're suspicious of Nigerians. They're suspicious of people from Sierra Leone. They're suspicious of the rest of the continent, and they don't really have a Pan-African vision. Then Nigeria is okay, but the problem with Nigeria is severe corruption. So it seems like there's different problems in different parts of the continent, but they're stopping us. So we need to have an African Union. We need to have an agenda. The best agenda that I've seen comes from Traore, and also from what's his name in South Africa, Malema. Malema has said he doesn't believe in border, because South Africa is a xenophobic country. But even Malema said, no, my brother's from Mozambique. My brother from Nigeria should be able to come in if white people can come in. So, but the problem is that Malema doesn't have power in South Africa. But people should listen to what he says. To me, he's one of the top revolutionary thinkers in Africa, along with Traore. So people need to read them. Everybody needs to read them throughout the whole continent, because Malema is a Pan-Africanist. If he was in power, there would be no borders. If you were from Nigeria or whatever, you could go. But it has to be the same way. If South Africans want to go to Nigeria or want to go to Libya too, that's how they do in Europe. In Europe, as long as you have an EU passport, doesn't matter where you're from. That's why they're strong. But in Africa, don't come into my country. You're this and that. No, this is why we're down. The Kenyans, they don't look at the broad continent. They don't look at what their government is letting them do in Uganda and in Angola and in Congo. So these are problems that need to be solved. But the crux of the matter is that the people need to read socialism, need to follow Traore, follow who is the other guy, Thomas Sankara, all of these guys. People need to go back and read what they wrote. Nkrumah from Ghana. That's where you start before you do a revolutionary. Before you go out on the streets and say, oh, we want justice. You have to plan and study. Okay, let's go to the last thing. Give us the